moments to get rocking and rolling. As we are quarantined still. I haven't watched the news. Scott, I don't know if you have. What's the word regarding getting out of the quarantine in Virginia?
I actually don't. I know, it's funny. I get most of my news from Facebook posts, and then I'll research to see if something's real or not. So from what it looks like, tomorrow is the day where they're going to allow restaurants to people outside and at minimum capacity. But at least they're going to do something. So you're going to be able to eat at the outside dining areas. And I think they even said they're going to allow places that don't have outdoor dining to set up tables like in the parking lot. As silly as that sounds, but better than nothing.
Parking lot pimping.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Go eat dinner. My wife ain't buying that.
Well, at least the weather's perfect right now for outdoor dining. So
that's true.
That's true. Yeah,
that's true. Roundup family, greetings everyone. Greetings class. This is Chris Haskins with the realestateroundup.com. My mission to bring you to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship continues, even though we're quarantined in the houses around the country. My prayers are with you guys, prayerfully that you haven't had any serious health issues or been affected, your family been affected by this stuff, because it is serious. And I hope, who knows what the future holds. And that's why I'm here to talk to the man that's been in the business for quite some time, longer than I have. Scott Jelinek, how you doing, bro?
I am fantastic. Great to see you again.
Yeah, you too, my friend. So it's always good to have you on here. Every time I talk to you, Scott, I learn something new. Every time, bro.
Good. Glad to hear it. Likewise. I like when we talk with a bunch of people, do a bunch of different things. And every time you pick up just a little bit, somebody's different technique, different way of doing something. Always useful.
So, Scott, I know you've been on here before, but I've been waiting for this day for quite a while. I remember, matter of fact, well, let's rewind. We had lunch that time. I don't want to go that far back, but later on, you were like, I'm like, Scott, are you ever going to put your stuff down where I can have it online? I can just watch your stuff at any time. What makes you kind of, how do we get here today? As opposed, I mean, it's supposed to be.
I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things and make you laugh. So I have been wanting to, you've asked me, Antonio's asked me for years. He's like, oh, you got to put it down. Everybody wants to see it. Not everybody's in our area. How can you put it online? Well, I'm not very computer literate and I'm busy. I'm always running around busy. Well, guess what we've been for the last 2 months? Not busy. So I've had plenty of time on my hands. I got done. I don't know if I even told you this. I finally got my book on Audible now. I've been wanting to do that since 2016. I finally got it done. Well, what else I got done is I finally got my whole complete training now, which has already been recorded, but I finally got it put together now online. Nice. People have been asking me for years, literally for years. And it was always one of those things. I'm like, well, I'll do it someday. Someday I'll get around to it.
Someday.
But I've had time on my hands now. And so I'm getting so much stuff done. And I'm telling you I know you're being productive, but I'm telling you this for anybody who's listening. If you don't utilize this time that you have right now, because how many things do we always say, if only I had the time, I would do this. Or if only I had the time, I would write a book. If only I had the time, I would start doing this. Well, guess what? You have the time now. If you're not getting those things done, then the reality was it was not a time issue. It was you. And so I know that, and which is why I have a list in my phone and I'm trying to knock everything off before they tell us we can go back out there. So I'm trying to clear my list, and I got so many things. And one of them was that's why I couldn't wait to tell you, because you've been asking me forever. And I'm like, I finally got it done. And we got it out there.
Well, Scott, for my Roundup family that doesn't know you, Scott's been in the business since the 1990s. He has over 100 rental properties. Well, let's say rental properties. You'll get into that. He does wholesaling, lease options, subject to owner financing, land contracts. Is there anything you don't do regarding real estate?
I do not rehab. So I have rehabbed hundreds of houses. I stopped rehabbing in 2013, and I've done a few in between, like if they were a rental that became vacant, that needed to be rehabbed and then it sold, but I do not rehab anymore. And I'm very glad about that.
Why is that?
Well, that's a great question. And I was just about to say it. So I am a firm believer that, well, first off, let me tell you why I stopped rehabbing. In 2013 was my first time I did an extended vacation, 30 days in Panama. And in that time, I had a lot of time to think. And one of the things I thought about while I was gone is that my people don't work for me. I work for them. I have to keep doing deals to keep everybody working. I have to keep these contractors going. I had so much I had to do. Plus, when you rehab, and you rehab, Chris, right? So when you rehab, you got to be on top of it. And you got to be around and watch them. And Well, I went away for 30 days. And when I went away, I felt like nobody did anything. And so when I came back, I was mad and I stopped immediately. I finished the jobs I was in the middle of and I said, that's it, no more. I'm just going to wholesale, manage my properties, buy more properties. And I stopped rehabbing altogether. And I'm thankful for it. Now, what I tell people, and this is where I was going with that, people are like, oh, you don't like rehabbing. I said, no, I never said that. I love rehabbing and I definitely believe people need to rehab, obviously, or the whole business wouldn't work. But what I tell people is the only people who should rehab are people who love the idea of rehabbing, people who love the idea of taking something ugly and making it pretty, people who love the process of rehabbing, not people who are just doing it because there's more money in it. Because there is more money in it, but there won't be for you. And I hope that doesn't sound harsh, but there is more money in rehabbing for the people who that's their business and that's what they love. But if you're a wholesaler, don't feel like you have to move up to rehabbing. You don't. You never have to. And if you're rehabbing and hate it, don't feel like you're stuck in it and you have to do it. You can wholesale. It's not a step down. It's a whole different business. Not everybody has to rehab.
Gotcha. Wow, that's deep to hear you say that. Well, for my people, generally people that are rehabbing are using other people's money, Scott. Is that your same belief if you're using your own money?
Same belief if you're using your own money, because this is the thing. This is where a lot of people get screwed up, where they think, well, you're factoring hard money costs, right? But I'm using my own money, so I don't have any hard money costs. There's still a time value of your money. Yeah. If it's your own money, like I have people like, well, I paid $100,000, I sold it for 110 a year later, but I didn't have any costs. You made a 10% return. You could have made that in any other investment and not had to rehab and take the risk. So whether or not you're paying interest, even if it's your own money, you still have a cost, a time value cost of that money.
Gotcha.
So it's almost irrelevant.
Gotcha.
It's harder to lose money if it's your own money, but you're still not making money, which in essence is a loss.
Yep. That's true. Well, Roundup, Scott and I are going to go back and forth here for a little bit. We're going to get his take on, thank God, he's finally got this course put together. And your boy, I've been negotiating with Scott actually all day, trying to get it down, get the numbers to where my rounduppers will be cool.
You say negotiating, I say getting beat down, but whatever.
Roundup, I feel like I'm an advocate. Was I an advocate, Scott?
Yes, of course.
Roundup. So Scott's got some goodies for us at the end of the video. And make sure you get your questions in about the market, about Scott's history. I mean, I'm calling him whenever I promise you, whenever I'm stuck, I give a man a call. If he can't answer it, he has somebody that can help me. Scott, slow flips for my people that kind of give us a kind of 40,000 foot view of your business, my friend.
So there's a couple of different aspects of it, but the short version is we buy, now it doesn't have to be these properties, but we buy lower end properties and we finance them on 5-year mortgages. Okay. Then we sell them as is, don't do anything to them, sell them as is with long-term owner financing, sell them on 30-year mortgages. So we buy them on a 5-year mortgage, then we sell them on a 30-year mortgage, and that's basically the short of it. So we don't make too much for the first 5 years, and then it's nothing but profit for the duration.
So you said buy them on 5, sell them on 30 for people that I feel like if I was new, I would not be understanding how in the world are you
want
doing?
Me to give you actual numbers?
Well, why buy 5?
Numbers.
Yeah, we'll do the numbers, but I'm saying where does the concept come from? Why buy 5? Why not buy 30? Why 30 and why 5? Why does all that matter?
Well, because if you pay it, basically, I've changed over the years, and you know that because I've known you for a while, and I've gotten beat down during the bust in 07 and 08, and I had a lot of houses at the time. I had a lot of mortgages, and and I did what everyone teaches you to do. And to be honest with you, Chris, and you know this, they're still teaching you to do that. And by teaching you, I mean, put 10% down, get a mortgage, or if you have equity, refi it out, use that money to buy another house. And it all sounds great until it's not, right?
So let's stay here for a minute, Scott. I know you've shared this with me, but I really think it's important for you to drive this point home for people that haven't heard this story.
Well, so you want me okay, so mine. So I was buying, so I'm going to go all the way back. I started, you got time, right?
Yeah.
So I started buying in 1994. And back then it was non-qualifying assumptions, which only older people would even remember. They did away with them in 87 and 89 for VA and FHA. But what it was is anybody can take over that mortgage at any time during those 30 years. Kind of like a sub-2, but it was with the permission of the bank. No credit check, no qualifications at all. You just had to make an agreement with the seller and pay them out their equity if they had any. So I started buying, and the first one I paid $5,000 down. My second one was $2,000 down. I got some for $500 down, and they averaged, $500 to $5,000 down. And so that was all I was buying: non-qualifying assumptions, all Virginia Beach townhouses. And I started in 94 and I got to maybe about 20 houses by the year 2000 and 2001 maybe. Well, in 2001, what happened? We had something we never had before, at least not since I was in the business, where that was appreciation. All of a sudden, I'm calling on these houses that I know are worth 65,000, and they're like, "Oh, I'm selling it for 89," and I'm like, "Oh, you're out of your mind." I call the next one, I'm selling it for 90. Oh, these people are crazy, so I don't buy. Well, next year they're 119, 120. Man, it's crazy. So anyway, wow. So I got deep into the business at that time. But what I did, I had my 20 properties, right? They also loosened everything back then with mortgages. That's what caused this, the big boom. Well, I pulled my money out. So I had a $65,000 townhouse that's now worth, 120, 130, 150. I pulled that cash out and used it to buy 2 and 3 more as down payments. Now I'm not doing non-qualifying. I'm getting regular mortgages, putting 20% down. So this was great. I got up to 84 properties doing this, right?
Wow.
Which was exactly the way everybody taught you to do. Take out the debt equity. It's just sitting there and use it to buy more properties. So I got up to 84 properties before 2007. Now in the interim, I'm also rehabbing. I'm also wholesaling. I'm doing everything else, but these are my holds. Well, then overnight, and I'm sure you remember, this was not a lead up process. Overnight in 2007, the lending stopped. The market started to plummet and tenants stopped paying because it was not one area. It was for anybody who was involved, it was the whole world, every industry, no matter what you were in, everybody was hurting. Well, so now I have all these properties that are all levered up, all of them, right? And now all of a sudden I have 30-40% of my tenants stop paying. And I got mortgages to pay. And I had plenty of money back then. I had just under $1 million in cash. I had plenty of money. And so I'm like, oh, it'll pass. And I'm feeding it. And then, it probably took me a good year and a half, maybe 2 years. And the money ran out. Mm-hmm. And when the money ran out, I lost, and I don't know an exact number, but I think it was around 50 to 55 of those properties to foreclosure. And that was a big deal because, I'm the guy that stops foreclosure. My whole business was we stop foreclosures. And so that was a real big deal. And, I saved, I think it was about 30 to 35 of them I kept. And then I started over with buying. But what I did different is I became obsessed with the fact that I don't want mortgages anymore. Now, I know we need mortgages. We still have to have mortgages. Unless you have millions of dollars to go buy properties, you still need mortgages. But we were given a gift, and I always word this as a gift. We were given a gift from the bus. And this is not, I can't speak for the entire country. I know probably a dozen or more markets that I know this exists, and I haven't looked at every market, but we were given a gift of low prices on certain areas. Now, our prices are booming. So my market here. So in Hampton Roads, where I am, our prices are at or above where they were during the boom, no doubt. But there's certain areas that never recovered. And there's certain areas that during the boom, they went up to $120,000, $150,000, $180,000, right? Then they got smoked at foreclosure because the whole thing was on a bubble, right? Then they got smoked down to $30,000, $40,000. Yep. To this day, we're 10 years past it busting, right? More than that. We're 10 years past it. To this day, we can buy them for $30,000. Yep. They never recovered. There's no retail market there. And so what we're doing is we're buying these properties now with short-term financing, short-term mortgages, and then selling them with the long-term financing to an end buyer, either an investor, primarily investors, but to an investor or to a homeowner who's in the industry who wants to do the renovation themselves. So it's changed everything now. So now we're not carrying this long-term debt for 30 years. My max that I'll do a mortgage for is 5 years now. And I know you do some things different than I do, Chris, but this is just the way I do it now. And it's really freed my head because now I've been doing this. I started doing this in 2011 on this model. And so 2016 for me was a huge year because I was like, my first round of them will start getting paid off because I bought them in 2011. So I remember I was on my wall and I couldn't wait till 2016. And I think maybe I had 12 come free and clear that year. And maybe it was 14. Well, now fast forward, we're in 2020 now, and I'm not 100% if it's 49 or 50, but I have either 49 or 50 of them are free and clear already. Well, this is tremendous, a huge difference from what I used to do, from what the business used to be like for me. Because now I have 115 total properties, and I believe it's 50, it could be 49, 50 of them are free and clear, no mortgage at all. And the rest of them, all of them, will be paid off at some point between now and the next 5 years. I had one got paid off this month. I know I have one in June. I have two in September, one in December, and that's it for the year. But still, so by the end of this year, I'll be at 54 paid off. I mean, and it's just, life just gets better. And every time, you send another last check in, it just gets better and better and better. And it's the exact opposite. And this is why I like to come on here, Chris, and I like to talk to other people about it, because it's the exact opposite of what everyone teaches you to do, what they taught me to do. And I did everything I was taught. And it's all great until it's not. And so I like to let people know there's another way. You don't have to go into that model with, we just borrow $1 bazillion and there's another way. The free and clear model, I used to laugh at people that talked about free and clear. I'd be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. You can make so much more money with leverage. I believed in it wholeheartedly. I believed in it. I was like, man, this guy's a fool. He can make so much more money if only he knew what he was doing. He owns 10 properties free and clear. He could have 50 leveraged. And now I guess I'm that old guy now, and I know I haven't had a haircut now in 3 months, and I can see the gray really good. But yeah, so now I'm that old guy, and I'm like, listen, forget mortgages. Yes, you have to get them to buy the property, because unless you have millions of dollars, we need them up front. But I believe I pay them off just as quick as possible, and then you reap the benefits for the rest of your life.
Wow. I just want to say, once again, I always say thank you to you, Scott. I mean, you just opened up my mind years ago to mortgage free. I thought I was going to be in debt for the rest of my life. I'm like, yeah, we got to just be in debt forever. Were you like that too?
You're taught to. They still teach it. Now, I get it. Certain times this rule doesn't apply. And like I'm going to give you, for instance, if you're buying apartment complexes and stuff like that, the debt is actually good because you're getting it at such a low rate. The cash flow is huge. They don't want to ever pay them off, right? But with these single family residential, when you're talking making a $300-$400 a month spread, I said, by the time you factor in vacancy and repair, you just work for the bank. You have a job working for the bank. Because you may make money for a year, 2 years, and then you have a major, fix it back up for the next tenant turnover. Yep. And you put in $4 or $8 grand and you gave it all back. And you basically have a job. Now, they don't tell you this, but you basically have a job working for the bank. Your job is to take care of their money and keep sending it in. Wow. And I actually take it to the extreme sometimes, where I talk about the regular conventional rental model that's taught. And I know you have people that like it, so I don't want to put it down, but like the Burr method they talk about, I feel like the banks invented that. I said, how can we get people to work for us to go and buy a bunch of houses and then send us all the money? And that's what they do. That's what that's all about. That's what it's all about, is borrow the money, then you do all the work, you manage it, you rehab it, you do everything. We'll sprinkle a little money to you every now and then, but then send us the bulk of it every month for the rest of your life. Wow. And I'm just, again, I used to be the biggest fan of it. If you talked to me in 2005, I would have been selling you on why you need to refinance everything and, and leverage it up. But I've learned hard lessons the hard way. And I'll tell you what, I'm a free and clear guy now. I am not a fan of having that debt. Me too. Thank you for preaching that, Scott. I'm just thinking about myself, like, man, I was the same way. And even when I meet some other high roller guys, they're like, man, you're paying off stuff. You're locking up all your money into houses. I'm like, man, it works for me. You know what I tell, because I get that argument sometimes, right? And I don't argue. So I tell people, I say, you're right, I'm just stupid. Don't you worry about me. You go make all the money. I say, you go do it. Because that was me. You couldn't have argued with me back in 2005. I would have argued with you how stupid you were for having it free and clear. And I would have won the argument. And so I don't do that argument now. When people try and argue, I say, you're right. I'm just stupid. You're right. It's easier. I'm like, you're right. Let them go. That's a good model to have, man. I'm thinking about every month it comes in. Scott, so I hear the fact that it sounds like you almost had to grow into this person. Absolutely. I was the opposite. I'm literally the opposite. I was all about leverage, like everyone still teaches. I was all about pulling out all your equity and using it to buy more. I would have preached that to the end of the earth. I believed in it. And the fact of the matter is, and this is why I hate to even say this, it works. That's why everyone preaches it, because it works. The challenge with it is it works until it doesn't. I'm going to be 47 this year, in a couple months, or next couple months in July. Well, so I feel like I'm old, but I guess I'm really not that old, but I'm too old to want to start over again. And if it's all leveraged, yes, it works until it doesn't. Well, if it doesn't at this point, I said, I don't want to have to start over again. Yeah. Well, I don't ever have to worry about that now. And that's the peace of mind I have. And that's what I was telling you when we were talking offline. I said, I don't care if I don't do any deals, if I do deals, if 50% of my people don't pay, nothing crushes me right now. I literally sleep well. I have complete peace.
Yeah.
I would not have that peace right now, especially in the market we're in right now. Everything's great right now, but there's uncertainty. I would not have that peace if I was dependent on people to pay for me to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, could you make more money by leveraging everything? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe. Absolutely, you could. If everything goes the way it's supposed to be, nothing collapses, absolutely, you can make more money. But there's the gamble there of you might spend 5-10 years making more money and then it all goes away like that. Or you can, do it another way where it's yours forever.
I'm telling you, that peace of mind. I remember you telling me, Chris, the calculator doesn't understand peace of mind.
And this is the argument. This is what I was saying. If somebody wants to argue with you why you shouldn't do this, they win. And that's what I said. If you would, and this is the way I always explain it. If they were to pull out a calculator and calculate how much money they would make doing it my way or how much money they would make doing it the leverage way, the calculator will always say they'll make more money the other way, always. But the way I answer it is, but your calculator does not have a peace of mind button. That's it. Simple as that. Your calculator does not have a peace of mind button. There was a time when I believed people that own their properties free and clear were stupid. I'm like, they just have, what do they call it? Dead equity. You just have dead equity sitting there, right? It's stupidity. Why would you do that? Well, now I see the other side of that now, and I'm very thankful for free and clear.
That is cool. Roundup, if you're just joining us, we're hanging out with my mentor, Scott Jelinek. You got to have a mentor. We finally got him to put his 3-day event online. He's going to be talking about that in a few moments. And right now, I want to ask him, tell us about this strategy that you have, Scott, with slow flips. What do these houses look like?
So they vary. And this is why, like in my local people that I work with, this is why I love to take them, put them on a bus and take them to see the properties. Because when we talk about my model, which is where we buy them at $30,000 or less, when we talk about a $30,000 house, if you have not seen a $30,000 house and you don't have a vision in your head for a $30,000 house, a lot of people's perspective is they think it's going to be 4 pieces of plywood, leaned up against each other, right? And they're like, well, what are you going to get for $30,000, right? And so it's not until I actually take people to see a house and show them this is what we got for $30,000 and that their eyes open up and they're like, holy crap. Because in your head, what are you thinking? 30,000, you can't get a garage for 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
But there's certain areas where you can. And I'm not saying these aren't the worst neighborhoods in the world. They're not horrible. They're just not the best areas in the world. And if you can buy a house for less, basically it's less than a Honda. You can get a house, own it for $30,000. And then the model, which I know I'm jumping ahead of it, the model is then we sell it with long-term owner financing. And generally we sell them for $89,000. And so the question, which you didn't ask, but I can feel people thinking it, is why would anyone pay $89,000 for it if you can buy it for $30,000, right? Which is a very valid question. And the answer is simply the $30,000 purchase requires cash. The $89,000 purchase requires $3,000 down and financing. But you're listening, I'm speaking for you guys that are listening, but I don't have $30,000 cash. Right, but that's it. But that's what you're trading your education now. You're learning to do this. So we raise the money, we buy it on a 5-year mortgage, and we sell it to the people that didn't get that education on a 30-year mortgage. I hope that makes sense to you. And it's not that you're taking advantage of anybody. You're not doing absolutely anything wrong. People, and the way I explain it to people, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, Chris, it's no different than if you go to Sam's Club, right? You can get a case of water for $3.60, right? For a case of 24 bottles. But if you go to a baseball game, that bottle's going to cost you $5 a bottle, right? They're not ripping you off. They're not doing it. That's the business that they're in, and this is the business that they're in. And that's the same exact thing. People are like, well, how could you sell it for $89? You just bought it for $30. That's the business I'm in. My job is to find them, get them financing, and then sell them with financing. They're a homeowner. They're not in the real estate business. They're buying it for their purpose, and then everybody's in a different business.
So owner financing for my rounduppers that may not understand that, Scott, could you break that down?
So there's several different ways of doing it. The way that we do it is a contract for deed. Sometimes some areas call it a land contract, some areas call it a contract for deed. It's basically, this is the way I explain it to my people, so I'll explain it the same way. It's basically the exact same thing as if you bought the house through a bank. The big differences are when you go to a bank and get a mortgage, the deed goes in your name and then you pay on it for 30 years. When you buy a house from me, you pay on it for 30 years and then the deed goes in your name. It's the exact same end result.
Nice.
And that's the way I explain it to my people.
It sounds like you said that a few times.
Once or twice.
So I'm presuming if I were listening to this, that this is an advanced, I'm listening to you talk. And if I was new, I'm like, I don't know, is this for me? This sounds kind of advanced, Scott. Is it something that new people can do?
So it is absolutely something, it's I almost wish new people would do it before they make all the mistakes with rentals. Because I have some people that have joined my program and they'll be like, oh, I already have 3 properties. And then they'll tell me about their properties. And I'm like, oh, God.
Nightmares.
It's worth 120. I got it for 110. And the tenant pays $1,100 a month. My mortgage payment is only $1,050. And I'm like, so you're losing $300 a month. And they don't see it that way, but that's how it averages out after you have a turnover and you have to repaint it and carpet it. And so
but you know that from being in it for over time, though, Scott.
Exactly. And that's why I like to catch people before they get into that mess. Because once they're in it, it's so hard to unravel it. It's so hard to get out of it. I know. It was me. And let me tell you something for those of you who are already in it. This is a real good point. That good thing you mentioned that, Chris. If you're already in it, and I was, so I told you I lost about 50, 55 properties, right? But what did that mean? I still had 30. Well, those 30 I had were not these type of properties. The 30 I had were $200,000 Virginia Beach houses, 300. Wow. I got one in Salem Woods that's 330. I got some $150,000 houses, but those I already owned prior to the bust, right? And those are the ones that I saved. Well, I still sell them on the slow flip model. So where I was going with that is if you already have 2 or 3 conventional properties, right? And you're like, well, I like what you're saying, but I can't pay it off in 5 years. True, you can't. However, you can still take away the burden on the other end by still selling it on a contract for deed. So, and I'll give you, for instance, I have that one in Salem Woods that was my primary I used to live in. I paid $159 for it in 2000, mind you. So that was, in 2000, that was the highest price sale in all of Salem Woods.
Wow.
It's worth like $330, $339 now. So I have the same guy's been in it now for about 10 years. And he pays me $1,850 a month. My payment on it's about $1,200 a month. But I had a mortgage on it for the $159. I think it's down to like $150 now. But it's the exact same model. It's just not a $30,000 house. I sold it to him, I believe, for $300. And he's been in there for 10 years. He does all the work. It's got a in-ground pool. He does the maintenance. He takes care of it. And it's his goal to eventually have that house be his. Meanwhile, I don't get a phone call to say, oh, the heat doesn't work or the pool filter's not pumping or nothing because it's his house. So it works with the higher end houses, just it's harder to pay them off. That's the issue. And so it's a kind of a combination of you want the back end, so you're not doing maintenance, you're not a landlord. You're a bank, basically. You're a bank, you do the financing. But you also, I like to attach the front end to it to where they're paid off. That's where you really make your money, is where you get to keep it.
Oh, man.
Not just process it for the bank.
I remember me just back in the day, I used to write checks. I'm like, am I going to do this every month for the next 30? I lost all those too. So. Yeah,
I mean, that became the norm in 8, 9, 10. That became the norm. People that were the big investors had all these properties are back to their job, working wherever, and all the properties are gone. It was crazy.
Tell me about who are these people, Scott, that are doing business with you and are buying these properties from you?
So that is a great question. There's typically 2 kinds of people that we sell to. Person number 1 is a tradesman. A tradesman will be a homeowner or somebody who plans on living in it, but he's going to renovate it and do the work himself. The more often than not, believe it or not, and your eyes might pop out of your head when I say this, the person we sell most of our properties to are investors. And it's crazy when I say that because I'm teaching people not to do that, right? But I'm only teaching this much of the investor world. There's this much. All the seminars that fly in and out of town teach people, they literally train them to find somebody that will owner finance you, and they'll sell you with a small down payment, and you can make a monthly spread of X amount of dollars. And if you this is the math, right? If you had to put $3,000 down and you made $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year. You made almost 100% return on your money. That's in fantasy land. In the real world, after vacancy and repair, they lost.
Nothing, yeah.
But that's not the way they teach them. So they teach them to be my customer. So we have tons of people who are real estate investors that have 2 and 3 and 5 properties from us as regular rentals. So that's one half of the people that are investors. The other half is the the really smart ones, and they crush it with our model, buying from us. And what they do is we have pastors and people who do like city programs, where the pastors do a program where they do a program with their church, where they buy the house, and then the church people all volunteer the rehab. They're fixing it up, getting it ready. And then they do a deal where they rent it, I guess, to somebody in the church. So they do it as a benefit for the people. So they do really well with it. I have people that have 10 and 12 houses from me doing that program. Then we have another program that, and again, I'm not involved with these programs, but the investors who buy from us are, where they do I have one that does transitional housing, people getting out of jail, where they get paid from the government. So these people get out, they do it by the room. So they might be paying me $875 for the month for the house, but then they're getting $600 per room per month. So they're getting $1,800 for managing it all. And I don't care. I want them to make money. I'm like, the more money they make, the more houses they want to buy from me. So I want everybody to make money. And so I have people that do that program. And then I have another lady, she's got 6 or 8 houses from me. She does some kind of social services program where she brings people in and she gets her money from Social Security. And she manages it all, and she fixes the houses up, and she loves it. And it's a win for everybody.
Nice. Well, Scott, one more question before I want you to kind of break down this 3-day live event that you finally have done. Thank goodness. Competition, Scott. Everybody is, I know even for me, getting deals with high equity, the competition is high. Tell me about the competition in the slow flip business.
So it's very interesting. So the only competition we really have is the competition I create. And by that, I mean my people that I've trained and the people that I work with. Because, and this is the tricky part, and I've come up with a word for it, I call it real estate purgatory. Because the houses we go after are in real estate purgatory. Nobody wants them. And I'll tell you why. Landlords, conventional landlords, do not want them because they're the lower end housing. They have statistically lower rents than the other areas. They have higher turnover, higher headache, higher problem houses. So they just don't want them, right? But so it doesn't matter, and they're in disrepair. So who would buy a house in disrepair? Rehabbers, flippers, right? But the flippers don't want them because there's no ARVs there. There's no after repair values. Yeah, so sometimes they try. You'll see a rehabber come in, he'll fix it up, make it all nice. It sits on the market forever, and eventually a for rent sign comes up, and he just lost his money. So rehabbers don't want them, and landlords don't want them. So who does want them? Nobody. Who would buy them is the people that live in the area, people that want them. But why can't they buy them? Because you got to pay cash.
Qualify.
They got to pay cash, and so the people who would buy them can't buy them because you got to pay cash. So we kind of get in the middle of that. We secure the private lending, we get the cash, we fund it, and then we sell it with the financing to the people who want them but don't have the cash to buy them.
Nice.
So, and that's why the competition is not fierce. They're readily available in most areas. Not, I'm really making a push this year to buy a lot more. I'm at 115 right now, and
Lord.
And I'll tell you something. You'll laugh at me, but my goal is to get to 167. And I know it sounds like a random number, and I see your face, but it's not random. And the reason is because I always try and use low numbers, and I always factor $500 a month is what my profit would be after I pay the tax, because I do pay the taxes on them. And you factor in some vacancy. So it's easy math. So I always factor 500 a month. Well, 167 puts me at $1 million a year before I get up in the morning. And so that's kind of my goal right now. I'm at 115. I want to get to 167. I'm sure when I get there, I'll shoot for 200, but right now I want to get to 167.
Good gracious. Round up, get your questions in over in the box, and Scott's going to tell us about his system. I did want to ask you, go ahead, Bubba, what's up? 5 years, Scott. Why not 4 years, or why not 8 years? Or why do I care about the amount of years? Where did this come from?
So the reason I came up with 5 years, and okay, so I'm going to have to take a step back to tell you about the way I pay my lenders so that it'll make more sense to you. So the way I pay my lenders is I amortize it. So it means it's not interest only. It'll be paid off in the 5 years. It's amortized for 5 years, and I pay, I hope you're sitting down, I pay 12% interest.
Wow.
So the reason I say I hope you're sitting down is because I know a lot of times people are like, oh, I can find a lender for 8, I can find lenders for 6. And yes, you can. So I'm not saying do not do that. If you can find lenders for less, clearly you'll get better deals. You can buy houses at different pricing. However, I started soliciting for funds for this in 2011. And the game I kind of came up with in my head was I'm going to offer a ridiculously high rate, which was 12%. And once I have more money available to me than I have houses to buy, I'll start lowering it. I'll say, oh, now I'm doing 10, now I'm doing 8. So that was my plan when I started. But a couple things happen. First off, the difference on a short-term amortization, the difference in the interest rate and your monthly payment is almost insignificant, and you can do it. If on a 30-year, it's huge, but on a 5-year, it's almost insignificant. That's number one. Number two is my lenders have multiplied themselves without me doing anything. And what I mean by that is I'm going to say, Chris, you're my lender, and you did 3 houses with me, you did 5, you did 10 houses with me. You have $300,000 out, but you don't have any more money right now until the money comes back in. But who are you friends with? People know people who are like themselves. So what are you talking about at the barbecue? Man, I made 80 grand last year in interest loaning to this Scott guy. Man, hook me up with that. I want to do some of that. So now I don't want to be like, well, he's getting 12, but I'm giving you 10. So I give everybody 12.
Gotcha.
I'm not paying it anyway. You know, it's the way I look at it. The tenant buyers are paying it. I keep my lenders happy, which gives me an unlimited amount of money. Literally, we have more money available to us than we can spend. So we have unlimited money to buy more. My lenders they're the ones finding me new lenders because they're all thrilled and they're bragging to their friends. So now their friends want in. And so that's why I've never really changed it. I'm like, hey, I just leave it be. Everybody's happy. And so I leave it be. If you can get it for less, yes, it'll be worth it. You might save $80 a month. I've never messed with it. I originally planned on it. Once I had more lenders, I was going to lower it, but everybody loves it so much. And, and I'm raising all the money for my coaching students too. So I'm like, as long as everybody's happy, I'm keeping everybody happy. So I don't mess with it.
Nice.
So then I didn't even answer your question. So your question was, why 12% or why 30,000? The reason I'm at 12 and 30, where 30 is my max.
Oh shit. Scott, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
I got a bad delay on you. 1 second, Scott.
No, you're sounding fine now.
Okay, you cut off at the reason why 5 years. We go.
Okay, so the reason why it's 5 years, the reason why it's 30, and the reason why I stay 12% is because 30,000 at 12% for 60 months makes the payments $667.33. The average payments on these properties is $875, which means after taxes and insurance, you break even for 5 years. So you're like, oh, I don't make anything for 5 years. Yes, that sucks. However, conventionally, you don't make any money for 30 years. So you deal with it for 5 years. But then at the end of 5 years, it's yours free and clear forever.
Gotcha.
So can you do 40 grand, right? And I have people that have done it. Can you do 40 grand? Yes. Now, sometimes you can do 40 and it'll make your pay. You might be negative on what you're collecting versus what you're paying out. Is it worth it? Maybe on one if you struggle, but the problem is you can't scale anything that you have to come up with money from an outside source every month. So sometimes people are like, I don't mind, I'll lose $100 a month for 5 years. That's okay, and you can afford to lose 100, but can you buy 10 of them now? Can you buy 50? Now you're losing $5 grand a month. Can you do that? And so I tried to make it so the numbers work at any scale. So I don't have to be like, well, yeah, this is good for now, but I can't buy more or else it'll put me under. So that's kind of where I came up with that.
Nice. Scott, okay, man, I got so much I could talk to you about. Rounder, get your questions in. Scott, I want to tell you just the mindset that you have. The mindset that you said you got so much more capital than you do have deals. I want you to just kind of give us a position on your mind, how you look at the availability of money as opposed to houses. What's more important? Is it more money out there? Is it more borrowers out there? Is it more money out?
Somebody's brand new. I'm sorry to cut you off. Brand new. That's a great question. Both of them are important because people always say to me, well, should I get the money first? I don't want to look for houses. I don't have a lender yet, right? Mm-hmm. So they want to find a lender. But guess what? The first question the lender is going to ask you?
Where's the house?
Let me see the house. So I'm like, and then you're going to say, well, I don't have a house yet. And what's he going to say? Well, let me know when you do have one. Yeah. And so the reality is you have to do both. You can't lock down your lender until you have a house, but you can still start talking about it. But then you get a deal and now you have pressure. You contracted a house, you have 30 days to close. I don't know about everyone else in the world. I work best under pressure. So now I have a contract. Now I got to start talking to every single person until I can secure these funds. And we can do a whole nother day on raising funds because I've gotten so good at it and the way we go about it. Obviously, we wouldn't have time to do it today, but the key, and this is something I just recently did with all of our coaching students, the key with your private lenders, and you use private lenders too, Chris, so I'm sure you know this, is they cannot ever feel the slightest stress, right? They have to, it's the most secure investment they could ever make. So I'm going to tell you just recently, we're doing this in May, right? Well, in March, what was going on in March? The world was collapsing around us, right? I had two lenders that backed in March because they were nervous, and I can't blame them. They said, if you don't mind, I'd rather not do these deals. And so we found a second lender for them. But I did with all of our coaching partners. We told them, under no circumstances can anyone be late. The 1st of April, all payments must be made. And I made it clear, if anyone has an issue, let's discuss it and see what we got to do. Or if anybody thinks they can't handle it, let's sell it to someone else in the group. But we cannot have a lender late, because basically the stock market plummeted. The world is in turmoil. And I don't want them for the second in their head thinking, is this investment secure? Now this guy's late, right? So every single one of our people, and we have combined with the group over 100 of them out there, more than that, everybody paid on time. It was perfect.
Nice.
Well, the 2 lenders who did back out, they didn't come through in April, but in May, all the payments again on the 1st got paid. Both of them have already called me and said, just want to let you know I'm back in. Let me know when you got some more available. And I don't blame them. It was nervous. Everybody's nervous because the whole world's collapsing around us. But because the payments stayed perfect on track, zero issue. And so where I was going with that is my personal opinion on the key to raising money. Now we'll get into how to ask another time or how to go about it, but is your lender has to be the absolute number one priority.
Yeah.
Because the whole slow flip model is based around the fact what makes you different than the other people who want to buy the house is that you can pay cash, right? They need the financing, you can pay cash. So the only way you can pay cash, unless you have your own, and even if you do, you're going to run out, is to have a good relationship with these lenders.
Other people.
They have to be paid so perfect that they're just like, they want, how can I need to do more? I need to do more because they need their money earning them 12% instead of getting 1% in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So they want constantly to do more. And that's kind of, raising money, that's kind of the whole key to everything is you have to have them wanting to loan you more.
That is so cool, Scott. I remember when I was looking for private money, I was like, I'm going to treat these people's money better than I'm going to treat my own money. Is that the mindset?
It's got to be. Yeah, it has to be. They can't lose any sleep. They have to know 1,000% their money is as secure as it can be, and they're making a great return at the same time.
Nice.
Especially with the market the way it is now, more and more people want their money out of there. Mm-hmm. They want their money out of there, but they almost need to leave it in because they need to come back up so they can make that return. But you can give them a guaranteed 12% return, guaranteed and secured by real estate. It's a no-brainer as long as everybody comes through with everything that they say they're going to do.
That's so cool. Round up, get your questions in. A box over there for Scott Jelinek. A few more moments. Scott, tell us about your Slow Flip 3-day seminar that we're going to offer my clients here, my viewers, my Roundup homies.
So I have only done, I'm not a speaker. I'm not a professional speaker. I have been doing this for 5 years, but only in my local market, only right here in Hampton Roads. And so I get people all the time, email, text, and you've asked me several times for your people, did we have something? And so I did record it. I have the entire 3-day recorded. And finally, because I had all this time due to the lockdown, I finally got it all out there now. And so we finally got all of that set up for you.
Nice.
And it goes over everything. So for those of you who know me, and Chris, I'm a simple person. I'm not a high-tech computer guy. I don't have any kind of crazy things you need to use. I'm a very simple person. And so my 3-day event is in that kind of simplicity. And I'm going to tell you, do you mind if I just tell them even what we go over in the 3-day, Chris? I got time.
Yeah,
right?
Go over it. And we're going to put the link in the video description. Make sure you guys, I'm going to drop it in there now. It's not there yet. It's Scott's course. We'll put it in right now. Hit it, Scott.
Yep. So when I start off on my 3-day, first off, I go through my own history and how I got here and let you know, basically what I've done and how I've learned what it is I'm doing. We get into your mindset and creating your future vision, which you need to do. And I tell people this all the time. If I had a clear future vision when I had my first 20 properties, I didn't need to parlay them to try and get to 100. I didn't need to. I had 20 properties that were producing $1,200 a month that would all be free and clear if I didn't refi them. So it's real important to come up with your future vision so that you know when in fact you've reached your goals, what it is you're trying to get to. Then we get into the one thing that I see is so important, which is marketing. We get into how do you find these leads? How do you find these deals? How do you find the motivated sellers? So we go through all of our different strategies for finding motivated sellers. Then we do something that I feel like everybody leaves out because I've been going to events for over 20 years and I feel like everybody leaves this part out, which my head is like the most important thing. And that is how to present your offer. And I don't mean just saying, oh, well, your house is in this shape, I can give you 80 grand. We go through a whole step-by-step process. And when I say step-by-step, I mean, I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday, literally the words, because I had a great appointment yesterday. I'll tell you about it later, Chris. Great appointment on the water, Virginia Beach.
Nice.
So step-by-step on exactly how, the words we say, how exactly we say it, how we manage their expectations, how we get them to realize that, we're reality. I'll give you, for instance, sometimes if a house is worth 200 grand and you're going to offer 100 grand, if you don't go through this process, sometimes people think, oh, you're trying to make 100 grand on me, right? But the reality is there's going to be a 20 grand selling cost. There's going to be $40,000 renovation cost. There's going to be your holding cost, your closing cost, your hard money cost, and you're going to make 25 grand. The seller would be okay with you making 25 grand, but he thinks you're trying to get him for 100 grand. Mm-hmm. And so we go through explaining exactly the way the whole process works. So the sellers are more comfortable with us, happy with us. A big reason is we get most of our deals through follow-up, you know that. And so if you leave that appointment with them disliking you, you're not getting that deal. We need to leave as best friends. And then as we go the next couple of weeks is when we generally lock it up.
Presenting the offer.
I go through exit strategies, which, we cover everything. We cover wholesale, we cover rehabs, we cover wholetailing. And the big one, which there's actually half a day on it, is slow flips, because slow flips are my favorite part of the entire business. I can never stress it enough to people, and I know Chris, because you and I talk, and slow flips are something I'm so excited about. And the reason when I get my people into slow flips, it makes me happier than anything else, because it's the one thing that I know sets them free. You can wholesale, you can rehab, you can make a bunch of money, right? And that's great. And we all are in business to make money, but it doesn't set you free, right? Nope. If you wholesale, you make 30 grand, it's fantastic, you celebrate. But if you don't make money next month, you got to go back at it again. Mm-hmm. With the slow flips, once you're done, you're done. It doesn't mean you have to quit, doesn't mean you have to stop. It just means you don't have to do anything. You can do whatever it is you want. And that's why I love slow flips so much. And so we spend the bulk of this on slow flips. Then I also get into raising money, raising private money, how we go about raising money for slow flips, because that's kind of a key part of the entire business. If you don't have money on the buy side to do the slow flips, it's not going to work. So we get into where to find these people, how to present it to them, it's the same type of thing, the words to say and how you get them on board, how to keep them happy. And then we get into a bunch of, we went into the raising money. Then I get into one thing that, a lot of people don't like to talk about, which is I call the roller coaster of a real estate investor, which, we spend some time on showing this is a roller coaster. There's ups and downs. You're going to have months where you make 30 grand. You're going to have months where you make nothing. And you have to kind of plan for that in advance. So when you're going through the roller coaster, you can stay stable. And that's the bulk of it. And so it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Closed-ended. It covers everything. I've been to other events. I've been to a lot of events where every part of it is just enough to make you want to learn more, right? Mm-hmm. I don't do that. So mine is actually everything there is to learn on it. There is no, here, we'll give you a sample and then you have to go somewhere else to learn more. We didn't do that at all. It is literally everything.
Roundup, I want to tell you this, and Scott's gonna. I want him to tell me what his interpretation of this is. But I promise you, I have sat down with this man over the years, asked him to do this. First of all, start coaching. Now, after he started to do that, I'm like, Scott, where is the digital format so I can give it to my Roundup family? I'm literally asking this man over time. So I want to say thank you for doing this, Scott.
You're welcome. Well, it was two different things. First off, I've always told you, I said, I'm not computer literate. I don't know how to do this stuff, right? So that was one thing that held me back. And then the other big thing is, I'm running around. I spend most of my day in my car, driving around, looking at houses, working on deals. And so something like this, you have to sit at a computer and get done, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I never had time for that. But because of the situation, I've been home for 2 months. You can't tell by my hair. I haven't had a haircut in 3 months. And so I've been home for a while, so I had time to finally get the stuff done.
That is cool. Scott's 3-day course, I've been to it. I remember when I was there, people were like, why are you here? I'm like, you have no idea what you can learn from this man. Anyway, always good time. Even if you know a bunch of this stuff already, it's always good to be reminded from time to time. What'd you think?
Absolutely. I always tell people, I say, I've gone to events over so many years, and I always pick up something. No matter how, people are like, oh, you've been doing it 25 years. Why are you going? If I pick up one little tip, it could be tens of thousands of dollars in the course of your career. So I'm always looking. Somebody else has another idea. I want to know about it.
That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Always looking.
So, Scott, what are you going to give us, my Roundup family? What type of I know you're going to give us some goodies. What can you give us for offer your course today, my brother?
Yeah, well, you broke my arm on it, but so we're doing it like you said. It's normally $497 for the full 3 day. We did it 50% off for your people. So for everybody that's part of your Roundup family, we're doing it at 50% off. And I think I gave you a link where you got to put in a coupon code of Haskins, right? Or you can give them a link directly with the coupon built in.
I don't know what the code. It was it Chris or what is that?
No, it's Haskins.
Haskins. Okay, so there he is. I put it in the video description. Roundup. You can go right to it. Just get rocking and rolling and get started. I'm looking at the content, Scott. I'm imagining. Even when I was there, I'm like, this dude is dropping a lot of stuff. And I see here you've got boom, 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 boom. Every topic covered for him.
I didn't hold anything back. Like I've been to events where I feel like I'm watching a live infomercial. Like they're just showing me enough to want to go to something else. And again, I'm not in the event business, so I don't know their secret strategies. I literally just taught every single thing that we know from the last 25 years, and we taught it all at our 3 days. So it's close-ended. You will get the information you need to get the stuff going.
Thank you, Scott. Man, I'm so grateful. Round up. Get your questions in the chat box right to your left there. We'll do some Q&A with Scott. Man, we've been on here for an hour.
Wow, time flies.
Good gracious. We've been here for an hour. Let's get some Q&A, Scott. You got some. Obviously, you have time.
Yeah. I'm good.
You got appointments to go to.
My pool's calling me. I'm good.
Round up, Liam. Hey, Scott, how did you get hard money loans for $30,000? I can't seem to find any lower than $100,000. Wow.
So that's a great question, Liam. And it's not hard money. So we use private money, and there's a difference. Actually, we teach about that, but there's a difference between hard money and private money. The big differences are, I'm just going to bullet point it. Hard money lenders are typically, they're in the business of loaning money. That's what they do. They loan money. They have their rate. They have their terms. They have their approval process. Their business is loaning money. Private money lenders are just guys like you and I that have 100, 200, 300 grand sitting either in an IRA or in a bank account that's not earning them anything. And they're not in the business. We're putting them in the business. We're training them to lend to us. So most, if not all of my private lenders, I'm their only client. They're not, it's not like, oh, they're in the lending business.
They're not in the business. Yeah,
they're just a guy. They might work at IBM, but they have 300 grand sitting in their account and they're making 1%. And then after I speak with them, I show them how they can make 12%. We create the rules. If you watch the video that I did, it's in the course on the raising money. One of the big things I teach is that you create your program. You don't want to go to them. You don't want to go to a lender and just say, well, how much do you want to loan me? Well, how much do you want to charge me interest? You want to go in and say, I need this much at this rate for this length of time. This is my program. This is what I'm offering you an opportunity to make. Nice. We're not asking, we're offering. And so we always we have to have our own program set up in advance. And that's why I tell you guys, if you want to borrow 40 at 5%, well, that would be your program. And you have to make sure the numbers work. And then that's the program you would solicit. But I've been doing 30 grand, 5 years, 12%. Sometimes people are like, well, if I can do 7 years, it'll be this much better. And then I always, you can do that. But the way I look at it is I say, well, that's a slippery slope because 7 years is going to turn into 10. And next thing you know, we're at 15. And I want it done. I'd rather suffer now and be free for the rest of my life than try and delay. But that's just my 2 cents. Good question, Liam.
Scott, man, I feel like even when I was started, I felt like the money was so hard to find. I want you to tell us about your posture when you're talking to these people. I want you to talk about, listen, what are you thinking when you're talking? Are you like begging these people to loan you the money? I want to know tell me about your posture or your approach. I don't want to know your whole approach, but what your mindset when you're talking to these people about the money.
That's a big part of what I have in the videos. So that's great point you just made there. We never ask anybody. This is a big part. I have a whole training part in there about raising money. We never ask anybody to loan us money. This is twofold here, so bear with me. We never ask anybody to loan us money. We offer them an opportunity to earn a 12% interest rate. But we never offer it to the person we're speaking to. This is the key part. We never offer it to the person we're speaking to. We ask them if they know somebody who might be interested in earning 12% on their money secured by real estate, and we do that purposefully, and I'll tell you why. What's the number one reason why people won't try and solicit funds? I can answer it for rejection. There you go. People fear rejection. And so rather than go through getting rejected, they say he's going to say no anyway. So we'll just skip him. Yeah, he does have money, but I know he doesn't. He lost his money in Amway 12 years ago. He's not going to do it, whatever. But if you know you can't be rejected, then are you going to feel more emboldened to go ask? Absolutely. And when you do it the way that we teach, you cannot be rejected. So instead of asking somebody to loan you money, we're offering an opportunity, but we're not offering it to them. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it goes, although we go way deeper into it in the course, but I'm going to tell you. So basically, I would say, Chris, I know you know a lot of people. Do you by any chance know anybody who might be interested in making a 12% return? We do $30,000 loans, secured, free and clear. They're the first and only lender on it, on real estate that's worth more than the 30 grand. And they make a 12% return on their money, paid monthly. And so Chris may say, yeah, I got a friend that might be interested. He may say, no, nobody I know is into anything like that. More often than not, because you got to remember, we're really pitching Chris, even though I'm saying, do you know anybody? So more often than not, what does Chris say? Well, I might be interested in that. Why don't you tell me about it? And what do I? Nah, not you. Not you. You're into a bunch of other stuff. I know you were already doing that other thing where you sold makeup online or whatever. Not you. You know, until he almost has to beg me to say, okay, I will let you give me money. So this way, it changes the power position from where you're like, oh, please, sir, will you loan me some money? To where you're the one in the power position offering him the opportunity to make the return. I hope that makes sense to everybody.
Unreal. Well, I guess I'm looking for like your posture. You're not necessarily begging, and there's money out there to be got, as opposed to me thinking when I started, I'm like, man, there's no money out here. There's no money.
Right.
This country's loaded full of it.
I'll tell you an interesting thing. I had one guy turn me down who was a referral from one of my other lenders, and he's an older guy, and he had so much money that my little deals weren't going to make an impact on him anyway. But the reason he turned me down, and I always remember it because it didn't make sense to me. We had lunch, we went over everything, and then he said no, he decided not to do it. And then I found out through our mutual friend who set me up his reason. His reason was it's too good to be true. He told his friend, he says nobody can pay 12%. He says nobody can pay 12%. It's too good to be true.
Wow.
And it's an interesting position because some people, and I'm one of them, you know, if something's ridiculously good, I'm like, all right, there's another thing you're not telling me about. So I tried to make it fair at 12%. I don't mind paying the 12, but that's the only time I've ever had anybody turn me down.
You should have lowered his percentage, lowered his down to 10.
Well, I joked about that, but this guy is loaded, like hundreds of millions. So the amount we borrow is insignificant to him anyway. But my best source of lenders, and this is why I always encourage people just to get started. My best source of lenders comes from my existing lenders.
Yeah.
And so that's why I can't stress enough. I'm like, keep them happy at any cost. At any cost, your lender has to be happy because that's where your new deals are coming from. Mm-hmm. And your new lenders are coming from your existing lenders. They're talking about it at a barbecue. They're telling them, you know, how much money they're bragging about when they do their tax return, they're bragging when they show how much they made in interest payments. They're bragging. I have a guy that literally, one of our local guys that every time I see him, he's bragging to me about he made $80-something thousand in interest last year. And nice. So he's always bragging. Well, believe me, he's not bragging to me. I'm the one paying it. He's not bragging to me. He's bragging to all his friends. That's why all of his friends want to do deals now.
That's cool. Sandrika, Scott, do you amortize your loans for these 5 years?
Yes, they are fully amortized, paid off at the end of the 60 payments. So at the 61st payment, you're paid off. So if you take $30,000, put it in an amortization calculator, which I'm sure you have on your phone, $30,000 at 12% for 60 months, the payment comes out to $667.33. At the 60th payment, you have a zero balance.
Nice. Don't forget Roundup. Go to the video description to get Scott's 3-day course recording. He's giving my Roundup family 50% off. Typically, the course is $497. You're getting it today for $250. Cost of what? I don't know. One hotel night somewhere. Get your education up from the man. I'm telling you, probably the man that's taught me this business. One of my mentors. Thank you, Scott. Next question. Well, Victor Taylor. Get your questions in Roundup. What CRM are you using, Scott?
So I use one that's called My Deal Factory, and it's kind of an exclusive one. If anybody wanted it, you can send Chris an email. I can get you a link for it. But it's absolutely awesome. There's plenty of. I used Podio for years, so I got to tell you, Podio works. Even Podio's free and Podio works. My Deal Factory is not free. It's $197 a month, but it does all kinds of stuff. And what I love that it does is it does the follow up for you. Like you can literally set it up to send a ringless voicemail a week after your appointment, a month after your appointment. Just say, hey, this is Scott, just checking on you, seeing if there's anything I can help you with.
Nice.
text from you. It sends text automatically from you. It does so much. So I can go on an appointment today. I set up mine for 3 years. So I can go on an appointment today, and if I didn't get a contract, I put him into the follow-up, and I may forget all about him. But for the next 3 years, he thinks I'm thinking about him every couple of weeks.
Nice.
And that's why I love it. It's absolutely fantastic.
Y'all hear that? That was worth, wow, that's worth the admission today.
Yeah, it's crazy good.
Will this be recorded? Yes, this is on my YouTube channel, my friend. Romeo, is there a home study course, Scott?
Yes, you have a link right down there below you.
Finally.
Yes, the full 3-day is down there below you.
Nelly, hey Nelly, what state are you living in? So you in charge of paying property taxes until the deed is transferred to the owner after?
Correct. So I live in Virginia. So just we'll start off there. What state are you living in? I live in Virginia. I live in Virginia Beach. I work at the Hampton Roads market here. The taxes. So I've done it both ways, and I'll tell you why I do it the way I do it now. I used to let the tenant buyer pay their own taxes, and I would adjust the payments accordingly. And what I learned, which you probably can guess, they don't pay them. And then if and when they move out, you got a $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 tax bill attached to the property, and guess what? You have to pay it because it's your property. Yep. And so I've changed it to where I pay everything out of the payment. So I do not have to worry about it. It's got to be paid anyway, so they have no reason to complain about it. No different than your mortgage company is going to make you do. Same exact thing. They want to know the taxes get paid, so they're like, well, no, we'll escrow it, we pay it. I do the exact same thing. So all of their taxes and insurance are included, which is why I say on a payment of $875, after everything, I only factor on making $500 even when it's free and clear, and that's why, because I'm paying the taxes. I pay everything out of that payment.
You got that, Nelly. Roundup, this discount will not be forever. It's just for the quarantine. This discount will not last forever. So just make sure you get in there quickly, get it over with. I don't know how long we'll be quarantined, probably to the end of the month, and this discount's over.
Something else, Chris, this is something, your people are the first people ever to be able to purchase this.
Oh, you finally just got done?
This is it. This is it. 2-day is the very first time anyone's ever been able to purchase this 3-day. It's never been available before.
That is so cool. Well, thank you, brother. The true businessman is give the public, give us what we want. Give us what we want, right? Scott, RBOs. Do you use RMLO? What is that? And what do you do?
I'm not sure exactly what the RMLO is. I think you're talking about a lease option. I forgot what it stood for. You can elaborate on that, but I do not. I use a land contract or a contract for deed, if in fact that's what you were asking about. I use a contract for deed. So mine is I sell it fully amortized as well. I buy it fully amortized on 5 years. I sell it fully amortized for 30 years. So this is an interesting number. People that don't know an amortization schedule. This is I think it was Einstein. Was it Albert Einstein who said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world? Oh, yeah. Those who understand it earn it, and those who don't understand it pay it, or something along those lines. Yeah. So interest is really interesting, but on a cheap house. So I'm going to go down to the real numbers. On a house that we sell for $89,000, we get $875 a month. Over the course of the mortgage, it's 360 months. They pay us back $315,000 on a house we paid. No, that's how much they pay us. I mean, they pay us $315,000 for a house that we paid 30, sometimes 17, sometimes 22, but factor 30 as the high end. We get back a total of $315,000. Wow. So it's, people are like, oh, but in the end, they're going to end up owning it. Yes, it's okay. Give them the house. Mm-hmm. There's no point in worrying about that. Yes, in the end, if they pay you back $315,000 for a house that you got for 30 and they paid off the 30 at that, give them the house. Yeah, give it to them.
Romeo, this sounds good. Is everything in the contract, and does this work in this market? I don't know what market he's in.
This market, do you mean this part of the market cycle? If you do, absolutely. I personally believe in this market that we're in right now, which is why we're talking today, which is why I'm so excited about this. I personally believe we are going to go into the hottest slow flip market ever. And I'll tell you why. They're doing, and you know this, Chris, and not in every state. I don't know, every state's a little bit different, but they have the courts are closed in my state right now. Our dates are getting pushed back all the way to July. There's no evictions, at least in my state, and I know most states, there's no evictions, there's no court. So your typical landlord that just has one house, or it's his old house and he owns it free and clear or whatever, has no reserves. So they need that money. They don't have it coming in now. They can't evict. because they're stuck. I think we're going to be flooded with new opportunity from people that just, please, somebody take this. This guy's calling me to repair this. He didn't pay me. I have no money to pay the taxes. Somebody take this away from me.
Gotcha.
I've already bought 2 since this started. And I personally believe we're going to be, I think anyway, we're going to be flooded with new deals because of this situation. Because if their money's held up 3-4 months with no court, and people that have no reserves, they're going to be crushed.
Yeah, they're done.
And we're going to have a lot of opportunity. They're going to need our services.
Yeah, I'm getting calls from a lot of landlords too. They're nervous. They're nervous, especially people that fixed them up for new tenants.
Right.
And now this hit. How do you how do you structure the insurance on these, Scott?
Great question. So I have a company here locally that I found that we developed a relationship with. So I can't speak for everyone because I know you guys are all over the place. But we actually, and this is just in the last year, I've been doing this since 2011, but it was just in the last year, we found a company now that will insure our tenant buyers as homeowners. So they're able to get their own policy, which means I don't have to have one. Now, that said, I do keep a policy on the property for the 5 years because I want to make certain that my lender is protected. Once my lender's out of the equation, you're an additional assured on their insurance, but I'm over cautious for my lenders because I realize lenders are the lifeblood to everything. And so I take very good care of them. So I keep insurance on them for the interim while I have it. Mm-hmm. One other thing I want to touch on though, Chris, if I'm talking too long, just shut me up. But
no way.
Insurance, I have paid all the way up to like $1,400 a year for houses I paid $30,000 for, right? It's ridiculous.
Oh.
If you're not on top of your insurance guys, they just will keep charging you whatever and you'll pay it. So I recently have changed to now I do what's called cash value. I don't do replacement value. So normal people, and by normal people, I mean if you have a regular nice rental or your own house you live in or anything, you want replacement value. My house is worth $600,000. If it burns down, I want to know I can rebuild that same house, right? But cash value is what it's actually worth. So I get to pick the amount. And so typically these houses I buy for 30 or less, I insure them for 60. So meaning the max I'm going to get if it burned down is going to be $60,000. I will not be able to rebuild that house for $60,000, but I don't care. I will take that $60,000. If I still have a mortgage, I will pay him off. I'll still be profitable that 30 if I just bought it yesterday. And then I still have the lot, which I'll sell. But by doing that, my insurance amounts average around $350 a year now, where I used to pay up to sometimes $1,300, $1,400 a year because they were insuring me for the full value to rebuild it. I'm like, but it's not worth that amount even when it's rebuilt. So I finally got that adjusted, and now I pay very little for my insurance.
Cash value as opposed to replacement value.
Exactly, cash value.
Nice. VPC, do you know of other states where this works? His or her lawyer says in New York, I have to foreclose. I cannot evict. So
New York is tricky. So we'll start there. New York is tricky. It works most everywhere that they have houses in the right price range. There are ways around it, even in New York. So now, obviously, I'm from Long Island originally. You couldn't even consider doing anything like that on Long Island.
No way.
But upstate New York, if you head toward Buffalo and all the surrounding Albany, you can buy houses that fit exactly into this model there. What you would do in those areas, if they're saying the land contract or the contract for deed gave an equitable interest and you had to foreclose, in those areas, you would do lease options instead. It's the exact same end result. You would just do lease options instead. It wouldn't be fully amortized. You would do a lease option. It still works. You can do the exact same program. It still works.
Round up. Go ahead and hit the video description. You can get Scott's newly finished 3-day live event all on the internet. Bubba, I'm coming. Why you keep messing with me? I'm working on the thing now. I'm just giving me about 10 more minutes. I'll be done. I got
Scott just keeps talking. Scott keeps talking. I'm trying to stop him. Nelly, how many free and clear houses do you keep per LLC? That is a great question. So I have several LLCs, but it wasn't based on a specific amount of houses. There's a way, and I do not want to get too deep into it right now because it'll take another 6 hours, and I know Chris's kids are ready to go scootering, but there's a way to protect your houses without having different LLCs for each house. I'm a big fan of not doing that. I've seen people speak. I've gone to seminars and the speakers talking about having one LLC for every house. And I'm like, oh my God, the paperwork nightmare. So I have about 30 plus properties per LLC, but that's not because of that I wanted a separate amount. It's because maybe I like my son has 30 houses. if I had houses, my houses prior to the bust, I had about 35 left prior to '08. So those are in a separate LLC. But there's ways to protect your houses fully. And I don't even mean insurance, although insurance is your first line of defense, where you can, and I don't want to get into the weeds on this because it'll go an hour, but you can basically have liens against your own properties.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole nother strategy for another day. But yes, you can have a lending company that has mortgages against your own properties, so that if anybody ever sued you, got a judgment against you, that judgment would come behind the existing loan. And so in order for them to take your property, they would have to pay off the existing loans.
Yeah, that's
way too deep to get into right now, but that's the short of it. So no, you do not. You can have one LLC. You don't have to have a ton of LLCs.
That's a beast strategy, dog.
Yeah.
Beast. Born to be missed. Chris, as a father, I love the relationship you have with your kids. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Bubba is special. She's going to carry on your legacy. Thank you so much, Born. Thank you for that. Scott, do you give a copy of the agreement for deed to the buyer, or do you record it?
So I give a copy to them. I do not record it. Occasionally, I will have a buyer who wants to record it, and if they do, I'll let them come in. We'll get it notarized for them. They have to do it on their own. Very rarely, but I do not record any of them. No.
Yeah, that's on them, right? They want to record.
It benefits them. It doesn't benefit me, so I don't do it.
I wouldn't even care. Edward Porter, what is a slow flip? Wow.
That is you got here late, Edward. You got here late. So that's too long of a question to answer. So I'm going to tell you that when you're done watching this, just rewind, but I'll give you the short version. The slow flip is selling a property as slowly as possible for the fastest possible path to wealth. That's my short answer.
Edward, we got to get you. You got to go just rewind the video, my brother. Anthony, Scott, is Brooklyn, Queens, or Queens, a good state borough for
yes. So it's great for flips. It's great for private lenders. It is not good for slow flips. So I have a house right now for sale, actually, in Flushing, and so you know where I'm at, right in Jamaica, and it's a great deal. There's great deals out there. There's great rehabs. There's great business going on out there. You can do wholesaling out there. However, what we're talking about today being slow flips, absolutely not. You're not going to get $30,000 houses out there. It's not, it's.
You can't even get a parking space for that.
You're not going to get a garage that you can make this work with. So not for this particular strategy we're talking about today, but yes, a great market for doing your regular business.
Scott, we're winding down. No more questions. Give us your final thoughts on this course and what it's going to do to help my round-uppers. Round up. Go to the video description. Scott, put this.
My final thoughts on slow flips in general, and this is something I'm constantly telling people is, it's one of those things that if you do not start now, 5 years from now, you're going to be like, man, remember that time we watched that video and we thought about starting? We'd be retired now if we actually did it. And that's it. It's 5 years. We're not talking about the rest of your life doing something. We're talking about 5 years. If you can start now. I have people in my program who did 13 and 14 slow flips their first year. So even let's just use 10 because it's an easy number. 10 brings you 60 grand a year on the low end for the rest of your life. That's in their first year. So imagine you do that.
People to see that though, Scott.
I know, and that's why I say just get one. Get one, and then you worry about getting two. Then you worry about getting three. But right now, just focus on getting one. Get started. Figure everything else out as you go. Don't try and make everything perfect before you get started. Sorry for rambling on again. I know you got to go.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Good. What about Scott? What developed this? I call it being a time traveler for me. I kind of literally, man. I've made myself a time traveler in my mind. I can see the future now because of the bumps that I've been through. I want to ask you, what turned you into this person that said, if I could just suffer for 5 years next, because everybody wants instant gratification with real estate.
So it's funny, and it's not a good story, but when we went through the bust, and I told you I lost a lot of stuff, right? Well, I literally had to look on paper and see which ones are going to stay and which ones are going to go, right?
Oh my Lord.
And the ones that were going to stay, I called them my parting gifts. I had a few that were free and clear back then, and I was like, well, at least I know if everything goes to crap, these houses are mine. They're my parting gifts. I always called them my parting gifts. I did all this, and that's what I'm going to get left with if everything goes to crap. Well, as soon as we started recovering from the bust, I was like, I want more parting gifts. I said, I want to know that what I own, and it can't be lost. And so that's why I completely changed my mindset. And I said, no, I want to own it. I want to own my cars. I have no car payments. I have no credit card payments. I have no house payments. I want to own what I own. And so I don't have to worry about that. Something can happen. The other thing is, and this is what I'm going to leave you with, there's a saying I heard a long time ago, and I think of it often, and it is so true. And that is that real estate has a 10-year cycle, but only a 7-year memory. And I think about it all the time because it's like the same stuff happens over and over again, but everybody forgets. Everybody forgets, and they do the same exact mistakes over and over again. And so I go out of my way to remember the lessons we've learned. And that's kind of that's why I preach what I preach is you can make mistakes, or you can just listen to somebody who's already made them and not have to do it.
Scott, from an entrepreneur side, what kind of car do you drive? If you want to share that with my roundup, since people think that most of us.
I have 3 Lamborghinis and 2 Ferraris, but I'm joking with you. So I have a story that I generally tell before I even say that. I'm going to say it real quick, and then we're going to let you go. Prior to the bust, I had 2 Cadillac Escalades, beautiful. I absolutely loved them, and I had a Cadillac XLR convertible. You guys probably don't even remember what that was. They only came out for a couple of years. It was a supercar. It was unbelievable. It was $105,000. It was a bad mamma jamma, right?
Good.
And so I loved that car more than anything. And I would be driving that car to go meet my lenders, the guys who were loaning me money. And I would go meet them in a parking lot to pick up a check or meet them at the bank. And they're driving a Honda Accord or a pickup truck. Typically, usually as a Honda Accord or a pickup truck. So then after the bust happened, the world collapsed and I lost damn near everything. I did a lot of time thinking on what I did right, what I did wrong. These guys that didn't get hurt, now they're crushing it. And, what can I learn from the experience? And so that was one of the things that always stuck out in my head. I'm like, they're loaning me money. I'm in a $100,000 car. They're in a Honda Accord. And so right when I was recovering, I said, I'm going to buy a Honda Accord. And I drive a Honda Accord right now. I'm on my second one since then. My first one was in 13. My second one was in 18. And I'm on my second one, and that's exactly what I drive.
You mean you got over 100 houses, Scott? I want people to feel this. You got over 100 houses, and you have the humility to drive a Honda Accord.
And I love it, yes.
Roundup, please remember, my thing is, Scott, I want to tell, for me, I don't necessarily make as much money as you do, Scott, per se. I just think that what I do with my money is differently. What we do with it, even for you, I can only imagine what you have done with your money. You know where it's going. Let me ask you: do you know where it's going when it's coming in, Scott? Yeah.
Well, I have. Again, we're going to be way off in the weeds, but I have a strategy that I use for all of my investing. So the money comes in, and if you don't find a place for it, it'll find a place. I always tell people that. I said, if you don't have a plan on where your money's going to go, and it just sits there, you'll be like, where the hell my money go? So I have literally every month, I know exactly. I have automated stuff that gets sucked out. I know exactly where my money goes every month on purpose. Because if you do not find a home for your money, the world will find a home. The universe will find a home for your money. And so, yes,
Scott, it took me, I'm just like, all this stuff I'm learning now took me 40 years to put this all together, man. How long did it take you to figure that one out?
Probably thereabouts. I really got, I did fantastic through the boom, obviously, but the whole world did. We all thought we were geniuses, but it was really just the boom was doing so great. So it was really until the bust where I really started educating better than, I knew how to make money then, but it was a different world. So it was until the bust where I really started getting educated better on how to do things properly and for long term.
Well, in the book I'm reading now, The 5 Rituals of Wealth, Scott, he has these 5 rituals, and only one is dedicated to earning. The other 4 are dedicated to managing. Yep. Are you on that same philosophy? Yeah,
it doesn't matter. This is again, I keep saying this, but I'm like, your daughter's going to kill us. So this is the thing. I know people that make $30,000 a year and have enough money to pay all their bills and have no money left when they're doing fine. And I know people that make $230,000 a year and have enough money to pay all their bills and have nothing left and everything's fine. They live like if they make 200 and they spend 201. And there's people that make 30 and spend 31. Then there's people who make 30 and spend 15, and they're building a future for themselves.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter how much you make. It helps, yes. But it doesn't matter how much you make. It matters how much you spend, how much you get to keep. And that's what makes all the difference in the world. Because then eventually the money that you made is making more money than you were making, and that's when you're free. That's what slow flips are all about. That's when you're free.
Scott, thank you so much for your time, my brother.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy being on here. I'll see you soon.
Roundup, get to download Scott's course. It's half price, probably, I'm presuming, to the end of the quarantine, the end of May. Scott, can you grant it to my people to the end of May?
Yeah, sure thing. Sure thing. You're actually the first people to ever actually even see it.
This is so cool. Okay, Roundup, make sure you subscribe, like this content, share with anybody that's thinking about getting into the business or a landlord that is actually not doing it the way I do. I do the same thing, Scott. Ugly lease options. We do lease options. Scott does land contracts. Same type of feel, just different paperwork. Okay. Love you guys. See you soon, everybody. Peace.
Have a great day.